You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, September 25th, 2020. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. And we've got a lot to talk about today. And this being a Friday, I'm going to do news for the first half of this hour. Then we're going to open up the phones for your comments and questions. And then in hour number 2, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us with her unique perspective on the world. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble. So let's get right on into it. Apparently, Dr. Ron Paul has been hospitalized for what are called precautionary reasons after he appeared to have some kind of a medical episode during a live discussion on his Liberty Report show. Some viewers speculated it might be a possible stroke. Okay, but apparently Ron Paul just tweeted from the hospital, I am doing fine, and included a photo of him with his thumb up and saying that he's doing okay. So our best wishes are with Ron Paul, and that whatever it was extremely minor. All righty, now the FBI analysts thought the agency's handling of the case against Michael Flynn was a nightmare, and that some agents wanted a Clinton presidency. Okay, and FBI analysts who had knowledge into the investigation of Flynn were concerned about the agency's conduct, with some speculating that certain agents wanted Hillary Clinton to be president. Well, we already knew that. I mean, just looking at, Peter Strzok's text messages and everything. The FBI has launched an investigation after military ballots cast for Trump are found in a dumpster in Pennsylvania. The president continues to warn about mail-in fraud. Now, they just had a segment on Fox News where they tried to explain away what happened by saying that the envelope for a ballot application and the envelope for the ballot itself looked too much alike, and that these ballots were opened by accident by people who thought they were applications. And once they were out of the envelope, they were considered naked ballots, and they were simply discarded. I'm not sure I'm ready to buy that one, but that's the excuse they're putting on out there. It's the official story, and they're going to stick with it. Okay, I think we mentioned this briefly, but it's worth another mention. Down in Gregg County, Texas, the commissioner and 3 others have been arrested in connection with an organized ballot harvesting scheme during the 2018 Democratic primary. Gregg County Commissioner Shannon Brown, Maylena Jackson, Charlie Burns, and Dwayne Ward were arrested on charges in connection with ballot harvesting during the 2018 Democrat primary, according to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. A $25,000 bond has been set for each person charged. Election officials became suspicious after Shannon Brown won the primary in March of 2018 by 5 votes after a recount. An unusual number of mail-in ballots were cast in the 2018 primary race for Precinct 4 commissioner in Gregg County. More election fraud apparently up in Massachusetts. We mentioned this one before, but we're going to sort of collect these all together for everybody to be paying attention to. Democrat officials in Massachusetts destroyed over 1 million ballots from the Senate primary. And the thing is, under Massachusetts law, okay, the ballot images which are used for counting and for recounts must be saved for 22 months, and yet they can be found nowhere at all. All righty. Donald Trump says he isn't sure the election can be honest. 2 hours after White House Kayleigh McEnany says he will accept the results of a free and fair election following his refusal to commit to a peaceful transfer of power. Well, he didn't exactly say that. And what he has actually said is he thinks the election is going to go to the Supreme Court, but he will abide by the Supreme Court's decision. All right. Democrats are afraid that mail-in voting could lead to problems. And so Democratic politicians and groups are now beginning to push voters to vote in person or hand deliver their absentee ballots as concerns grow over what a flood of mail-in ballots could mean for the election. So that whole mail-in ballot thing is starting to unravel for everybody. Joe Biden is going to be staying in his basement until next Tuesday's debate. Jill Biden will stump for her husband for the next 5 days. Interestingly enough, one of Biden's talking points, one of his planks on his platform, is a proposed tax on the guns you already own. You either pay or risk confiscation and 10 years in prison. Now, it's not really clear whether he intends to tax you for your guns every single year, but it's just another Democratic attempt to get around the Second Amendment by saying, you have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. You just have to pay all the licensing fees and the taxes on the ammunition and fill out all the paperwork. To simply make it so difficult, most people won't bother. However, looking at gun sales this last month, it isn't working here. Florida Attorney General Moody is standing by his investigation into Michael Bloomberg's felon donations. Of course, as we reported earlier in the week, Michael Bloomberg is paying the fines of Black and Hispanic felons in Florida to allow them to vote. And it basically amounts to vote buying. Now, nobody has caught any of Bloomberg's people telling these ex-felons, you will vote for Biden in exchange for this money, because that would definitely be hard evidence of vote fraud. But the implication is there that if, Bloomberg, as a Democrat, pays off these debts for these felons, they're going to be feeling very grateful toward him. All righty. Story coming on out of UNS.com. All the chips are on the table. And Joe Biden promised that he was going to make his first choice for the Supreme Court as the first African-American woman justice. However, Biden still refuses to produce a list of Black female judges and scholars who he would consider for the now vacant seat. And so what is his problem? And the problem is, of course, that anybody that the Democrats are going to put up for the Supreme Court is probably going to scare the heck out of the voters who have been looking at recent court decisions, not just from the Supreme Court, but from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And it just seems like it's a free-for-all out there for the rioters, for the fringes of society seem to be moved into the mainstream, and the mainstream is being sent out to pasture, as it were. House Democrats plan to introduce a bill next week that would limit U.S. Supreme Court justices' lifetime appointments to 18 years, a largely symbolic response to the high-stakes battle in Congress over the Supreme Court vacancy left by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The legislation has no chance of passage in the GOP-led Senate, where Republicans are trying to fast-track a successor to Ginsburg and enshrine a conservative majority for a generation. Democrats have accused the GOP of a power grab and argue that the iconic liberal justice's successor should be picked by the next president. But Republicans say it's the president's constitutional prerogative to fill the empty seat, and it absolutely is, until the end of the term, which is in January. But under the proposed Supreme Court Term Limits Act, after a justice serves 18 years on the Supreme Court, they would be allowed to continue serving on a lower court. Now, the legislation would exempt the current justices from term limits. It would also change the appointment process, making it so every president has the opportunity to appoint only 2 justices during their 4 years in office. A president would nominate a new justice in the first and third year of their presidency. That's going to be a problem, because you're going to wind up with a 4-4 court, a lot more times because of that. A voting advocacy group recorded over 40,000 new voter registrations in the 2 days after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And Carolyn DeWitt, president of Rock the Vote, in an interview on CNBC said, "I do think that the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg has galvanized eligible voters, in particular those who understand the role of the Supreme Court and are concerned about the future of civil rights." All right, we're seeing some really bizarre campaign ads this season. Some are very well produced and some are really effective, but apparently left-wing activists released a public service announcement on Tuesday featuring twerking Atlanta strippers, telling Black people to get your booty to the polls and vote in the upcoming election. And personally, I did take a look at it. It struck me as just a little bit gross. I basically bailed on it about halfway through. All righty. Apparently, there is a movement in Congress, in the House, if Nancy Pelosi tries to impeach President Trump for appointing a Supreme Court justice, as the Constitution says he has to, they will take steps to remove her as Speaker. Well, whether it's that threat or just the inadvisability of doing it, Pelosi has said she's no longer considering another Trump impeachment. She said, "I don't think he's worth the trouble at this point." After all, the Democrats are going to steal the election and Trump's going to be gone in January. All righty. Trump has launched his America First healthcare plan with an executive order that protects people with pre-existing conditions as he continues to back his court challenge to kill off Obamacare. Now, the Democrats, all of a sudden, who've been stalling on us, now all of a sudden they're in high dudgeon, they're moving forward. They want to prepare a new coronavirus relief bill. They want to restart negotiations. They're beginning to realize that if that coronavirus stimulus doesn't happen, it's going to work against them in November. So Democrats are crafting a $2.4 trillion coronavirus relief package, which will include a second stimulus check, in hopes this will goad Republicans into reopening negotiations stalled since last May. The Democrats' new bill will include enhanced unemployment insurance, direct payments to Americans, funding for the popular Paycheck Protection Program, Small Business Loan Program, and aid to airlines. House Speaker Pelosi has directed Democratic committee chairs to draft the new scaled-back legislation intended to serve as a basis for new talks with the White House. Okay, this story is getting a lot of coverage even in the corporate media. The FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation on the primary source for the dossier author Christopher Steele created, you know, the one that's been completely discredited. And the FBI considered obtaining a warrant to wiretap him all the way back in 2010. They considered him a possible Russian spy, and this was years before the Trump probe. The FBI was also aware of the information about the source, identified elsewhere as Igor Danchenko, by December 2016. This is the most stunning and damning revelation the committee has uncovered, according to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham, who said in his statement after releasing an FBI memo about the dossier source. Okay. Two top Republicans are pushing for FBI and Justice Department investigations into a series of wire transfers that Chinese and Russian business people made to Hunter Biden, the son of Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. Ohio Representative Jim Jordan, the top Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, sent a letter Thursday to FBI Director Christopher Wray inquiring whether the Bureau has investigated the wire transfers. Now, just before he went to air, there was a story breaking that confidential documents have been leaked that show Biden, Soros, Clinton, and Misfit criminal activity in Ukraine. So this is starting to unravel. Not soon enough for my taste, but you know, it's getting there. Justice delayed is justice denied, and it's all about protecting the election for certain candidates here. All right, let's get into the protests and all the rest of that's going on. They had another rough night over there in Louisville. But the polls are definitely turning against Black Lives Matter and Antifa. 44% now oppose versus 39% who approve. This is in a new Associated Press NORC poll. And so more Americans now disapprove of what they're seeing, and this is going to work against the Democrats in the November. Violent clashes broke out in Seattle. Crowds occupied a St. Louis freeway, and New York City demonstrators demand to defund the police as Black Lives Matter supporters take to the streets across the nation for a second night of Breonna Taylor protests. Protesters fought running battles with police on bicycles, blocked off intersections by setting dumpsters ablaze in Seattle last night as the nationwide protest continued for a second night. I think this is probably going to go through the weekend. Okay, pardon me. Two Louisville cops were shot. We've already mentioned that before. They're both out, or at least one of them is now out of the hospital. Was shot by a gunman as the suspect is charged with wanton endangerment, the exact same charge issued against one of the police involved in the Breonna Taylor incident. And he's not being charged with attempted murder despite intentionally firing at the police. Now, the National Police Association is saying it should be attempted murder at an absolute minimum. So anyway, the Louisville cop who was shot during Breonna Taylor unrest heroically shows up at the roll call one night later. He got a rousing round of applause from his fellow police officers. That takes a lot of guts. I mean, he was basically just hours after being released from the hospital, he shows up for a roll call at the police station. That's one tough cop. So the gentleman who's been arrested for shooting the Louisville officers is named Lorenzo D. Johnson. He's 26 years old. He's been charged with 2 counts of assault on a police officer and 14 counts of wanton endangerment for allegedly shooting 2 cops during a Black Lives Matter riot on Wednesday night. I can see, the assault on the police officer. The 14 counts of wanton endangerment probably results from the fact that there was a crowd of people behind the police officers. And remember, wanton endangerment in the first degree carries a prison sentence of 5 years per count. So he could, in theory, be going away for a very, very long time. Now, Trump is accusing Biden of launching an anti-police crusade. Trump went full law and order at his rally last night in Jacksonville, Florida, and basically accused Biden of surrendering to flag burners and rioters. All righty. FBI and Department of Homeland Security officials are saying that extremists pose a violent threat. Yeah, we can see that in Portland, in Louisville. Officials from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security raised concerns at a Senate hearing yesterday about violent threats from extremists across the ideological spectrum. Ken Cuccinelli, the acting deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, described the high lethality of white supremacists in recent years. Now, why is he focused on white supremacists with what we're seeing with our own eyes in Portland and Seattle and Louisville? Now, Mr. Cuccinelli's comments are notable because the current senior official recently alleged in a whistleblower complaint that Homeland Security's leadership played down the threat of white supremacists to align with the Trump White House agenda. Department of Homeland Security is denying the whistleblower's complaint here. Okay, over in Texas, the Dallas City Council sort of went through the motions of defunding the police, but not really. They cut the police overtime budget by $7 million, but most of that money will be redistributed to other department purposes. However, the overall budget of the department was increased in what was seen as a shell game to avoid conflict with Black Lives Matter. The Dallas City Council voted Wednesday to cut the overtime budget for the city's police department by $7 million, but resisted broader calls to defund the department. Okay, over in Louisville, a church opened its doors as a sanctuary for the rioters. The black militants went on in and threatened to beat up the white people and press if they didn't leave. So this was the First Unitarian Church, and it explained to live streamers outside that houses of worship are exempt from the curfew, and the church has opened up as a sanctuary house. All righty, turning to COVID-19, which is still out there. Apparently, Australia, Israel, Europe, and Great Britain are starting to do another lockdown. They're locking down again. They're anticipating the second wave with the onset of winter. New York City is threatening to shut non-essential businesses in neighborhoods where COVID-19 cases are on the rise. This is 6 specific neighborhoods. Europe's lockdown, according to a German minister, Europe's lockdown will kill more people than COVID-19. This is from Germany's Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development, Gerd Müller. The grim prognosis was made by the German official in an interview with the Handelsblatt Daily. The pandemic has already triggered one of the biggest hunger and poverty crises across the world, Mueller said, and further damage will be done thanks to the measures taken to battle it. We expect an additional 400,000 deaths from malaria and HIV this year on the African continent alone, with 500,000 more will die from tuberculosis. You know, we're seeing that sort of an effect here in the United States of America, where everybody is obsessively focused on COVID-19, and yet because of the COVID-19 lockdowns, people aren't going to the doctors for other medical issues. And so we're seeing a rise in deaths from things like cancer, tuberculosis, heart attack, various things like that. So, we may get the COVID-19 deaths down, but at the loss of other lives to other causes increasing. Okay, this one really got to me, and also to Claire for obvious reasons here. But apparently, over in Idaho, the police arrested Christians for singing hymns. And the idea was that they were singing without the masks. And so the police said, hands up, don't sing. They arrested 3 of them. And it really did upset a lot of people. Use a choir, go to jail, I guess. Over in Great Britain, their chief scientific advisor has 600,000 pounds of shares in the vaccine maker contracted by the government. I think there's a conflict of interest. We got to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Planner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Planner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Planner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Planner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show here. And again, a gentle reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. And as we saw earlier in this week, Republic Broadcasting is running right on the edge. And we had problems with our antiquated phone system. And we really for those 2 Dixie cups with the wax string tied between them because it's just not carrying the volume of telephone calls that we need it to. So if you can help out, and we thank you if you can, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. All right, we're talking about the COVID-19. And in this story from Scoopy Web, they're already beginning to backtrack on the coming vaccine and saying that this first corona vaccine will not be a silver bullet. It's unlikely to stop people catching the disease, and its only effect may be to reduce symptoms. Experts advising the government say it may only reduce people's symptoms. They said it may be partially effective and stress caution when it's rolled out. Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty has set the bar to at 40 to 60% efficiency. So whatever they're rolling out for political gain, it's for all we know, it's just water in that needle. Okay, over in New York, Big Brother wants more information about you from your doctor. Last month, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo ordered healthcare professionals across the state to provide the full residential address and phone number, occupation and employer name, full work address and employer phone number, as well as race and ethnicity for all patients tested for COVID-19. On Monday, he upped the ante. The new order mandates that doctors collect and report whether a patient attends or works in a school, and if so, the name and location of the school. This includes elementary, secondary, post-secondary higher education. It is also critical to list the patient's local address if different from their permanent address. Okay, healthcare providers must report within 3 hours the price of noncompliance, civil penalties of up to $2,000 per day. All right, turning to the international news, President Donald Trump is offering help on the India-China border tensions again. We've been down this road before. Trump's new comments came on the heels of India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar calling the 5-month-long standoff at the line of actual control between India and China unprecedented. Jaishankar said the border tensions were only part of a much larger problem. Britain will join the United States and Canada in imposing new sanctions on Belarus. And the decision was announced by the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, in the House of Commons just yesterday. Raab attacked Belarusian President Lukashenko as a leader who is a wholesale lack of legitimacy. Raab reiterated the British government position of not accepting the results of last month's presidential election in Belarus. Russia is calling upon the OPCW to release data on the Navalny poisoning, as Germany has provided zero credible evidence. Now, remember, supposedly being poisoned with one of the world's deadliest poisons, Navalny is up and about. Whatever it was that knocked him down, he's over it here. So Russia's mission to the OPCW asked Germany to provide all data related to the alleged poisoning of Alexei Navalny and to make it public. After Berlin refused to share any data related to the affair, Moscow sent it to the OPCW instead. Russia has reached out to Germany through the organization. The permanent envoy to the chemical weapons watchdog, Alexander Shulgin, told Russia Today. So, question, this is coming from UNS.com. Are you feeling safer? War of the Worlds pits the U.S. and Israel against pretty much everybody else. Now, our media is currently focused on the upcoming election, coronavirus, fires on the West Coast, and the Black Lives Matter and Antifa unrest. And it's no surprise that some stories are not getting a lot of coverage. Last week, an important vote in the UN General Assembly went heavily against the United States. It was regarding a non-binding resolution that sought to suspend all economic sanctions worldwide while the coronavirus cases continue to increase. It called for intensified international cooperation and solidarity to contain, mitigate, and overcome the pandemic. It was a humanitarian gesture to help overwhelmed governments and healthcare systems cope with the pandemic by having a free hand to import food and medicine. This is a little bit of embarrassment. After all the ballyhoo about their supply to Kiev, you'd think at least they work. A U.S.-made Javelin anti-tank missile malfunctioned during a major military exercise in the presence of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The commander of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Northern Command, Major General Valery Zaluzhny, confirmed the incident on local media. The Javelin didn't work. The missile didn't fly out. Maybe it was a mistake by the operator. Maybe it was something else. We're going to have to figure it out. All right, we're going to take ourselves another break for commercials, and we'll be back with the economic news and phone calls. We're going to open the phone line after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cachingproperty.com. That's cachingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new EaseOff Model EZ4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The EaseOff lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the EaseOff? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my EaseOff?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new EZ4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. EaseOff LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
Welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Let's talk about the economy for a bit. U.S. mortgage purchase applications have surged 13.41%. Refi apps are surging 20.92%. So people are trying to take advantage of the downturn in the interest rates. Just don't get stuck in one of those variable rate mortgages because you will pay for it later on here. Wayne Dupree is out there saying our welfare state worked for a while, but no longer. It feels like America is sliding toward destruction. And he says the welfare state was not a failure for the Democrats. It has achieved everything they wanted up until now. Instead of owning slaves on the plantations, they came up with a plan to deceive blacks. By giving them a few crumbs from birth to death, they also made them dependent on the Democrats. So the black vote was assured election after election after election, while the ghetto plantations never got better, only worse. Thankfully, a number of black voters are waking up, not to the woke generation, but to the reality of what the Democrats want from them. They also see mostly white Antifa activists destroying their neighborhoods and small businesses. Antifa and Black Lives Matter also use brainwashed blacks from those Democrat ghettos to loot and to kill each other, and educated blacks have taken notice. All righty. The Boston Federal Reserve is very worried about the labor market. They ought to be here. Another little article from Investment Watch blog, the silent exodus nobody sees, leaving work forever. There are people who have lost their jobs during this COVID-induced economic downturn who have probably found other ways to get by, and they may never go back to their jobs again. Stock market looks to be very chaotic here, and the advice that's coming again from Investment Watch Blog is to buy the dip in gold and silver. We're also getting assurances from Wall Street that the current quantitative easing is not inflationary. And if you believe that, I have some of Saddam's nuclear weapons to sell you. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. David in Boston, welcome to the show. What's on your mind? David, are you there? Hello, David? There you are. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You're on the air.
Yeah, Michael, when I called yesterday, I was just getting to the line there of instead of waiting for Trump to drain the swamp, that the American people could always swamp the drain. All our blood and treasure is being drained out in Washington, D.C. We could swamp the drain instead of waiting. But anyways, I was attacked. I was assaulted, Mike, by, you probably said something was wrong, but I was assaulted by some self-appointed face diaper policewoman. I'm talking I was on the grounds of a hospital. Actually, Mike, I was on the grounds of Milton Hospital, right? And George Bush's birthplace isn't too far away from Milton Hospital. And
okay.
But I was outside and I was on a bench on the grounds of the hospital. And this lady came up to me and I guess she had a problem with me not wearing a face diaper, even when I was outside. I guess she did something in the hospital. I found out she wasn't a doctor, but nobody knew exactly. She had like a hospital ID, but I was just out, out on a bench outside on the grounds and everything. And but anyways, Mike. So Mike, what's even worse than a white supremacist? I think it's what I am, Mike. I want to fess up. I'm even worse than a white supremacist. I'm a white polemicist.
Okay.
White polemicist. Okay. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she lied in life, and now she's lying in death. I call her Ruth Bader Meinhof. But Mike, I saw the movie RBG. She denied, and here's where my polemic comes in here a little bit. But she denied that the fetus or the unborn baby was a baby. It wasn't a baby until after it was born. Now, Mike, to me, that's a little polemicism here. That's, to me, Mike, that's as ridiculous as saying food is not food until you eat it.
Okay. That's a good analogy.
That's a good analogy, isn't it? It's just as ridiculous as saying that denying that food is food until you eat it and everything. So, but Mike, even this aggressive lady that assaulted me, what I noticed up here, when this Boston, it's not like other parts of the country. I've been all over the country, Mike, except for Hawaii. And I lived in Alaska for years and everything, but and I lived in New York City and everything before that. But Mike, up here in Boston, it's almost like Sharia law or something. If you walk around Boston and everything, almost all the women, they either by themselves or they're with other women. So what that tells me, when I think logically, what that tells me is, and I know this isn't the case all over the country, out in the countryside and everything, but what that tells me is these women, they've abandoned their fathers, they've abandoned their husbands, they've abandoned their sons. It's unbelievable. It's like de facto Sharia law. They're either by themselves or with other women. Now, we're having a beautiful day back here, and there's some, because of the COVID-19, there's some outdoor dining and everything. But the women are just dining between themselves, and the men are either by themselves with other men and everything. And you know what normalcy, Mike. I go down very often. I go down to church on Sunday. There's a Mennonite community in Mendon, Massachusetts, and it's
Yes.
about an hour's train ride. And I go down there, and I go down there, and I don't agree with them 100% on everything, and so on and so forth. But I go down there because it's so refreshing to just see family life, to see the wonderful relationship that the husbands and wives have with each other, and their wonderful children and everything. It's just so refreshing. It's almost like going back in time, and everybody loves each other. The children love their parents. The husbands love their wives. The wives love their husbands. They all love each other. And but compared to this, compared to all this hate up here, but like I say, maybe I'll close with this because you got wonderful callers, Mike. I love listening to them. But I don't know if I ever told you this. I don't think I did, but I went to a gender studies seminar over in Harvard
Yes.
a few years ago, and there was this Jewish lesbian, and she had her goy girl with her, her goy toy or whatever, and it was like an amphitheater type thing. They were down, the seats, ascended and everything like an amphitheater. And I was like about the only older guy in there. But this Jewish lesbian was telling these young, impressionable young ladies, called Harvard College students and everything, that our founding fathers would just as sooner take their cat o' nine tails lash to their wives as to their black African slaves. That, they just whipped their wives right along with their black. This is what, believe it or not, what she was saying. I look at these impressionable young white girls. I couldn't take it anymore, Mike. I finally stood up and I said, hey, with all due respect, I have to disagree. I turned to the young ladies. I says, if you want to prove that this is not true, just read the love letters between John Adams and Abigail Adams.
I was about to bring up Abigail Adams. If John had tried to hit her, she would have flattened him.
Huh?
I said if John Adams had tried to hit Abigail, she would have flattened him.
Yeah, right. And of course, he was one of our founding fathers that was against slavery and didn't own any slaves and everything. Mm-hmm. And you know what this Jewish lesbian did? She terminated the whole class. She picked up her papers. She said, "This is dismissed," and she walked out in a huff. And everything, and but can you imagine? No wonder these young college girls are so full of hate, and they're aligning themselves with Black Lives Matter and everything. If they actually believe that our founding fathers would sooner whip their wives, take the cat o' nine to their wives, they'd sooner take it to their wives as to their black African slaves. My recommendation, Mike, and I'll get off, but. Anybody that can hear my voice out across the country, you're absolutely nuts if you raise your children the right way, and the last thing you want to do is send them off to these colleges like around Boston, Harvard, and MIT, and all these Ivy League colleges. It's the worst thing you can do. And so I guess, Mike, I've talked. I've talked enough, Mike, and that's what happened yesterday. I was so rudely interrupted. And finally, I hadn't been up at the Milton Hospital for a while because of COVID-19, but the chief of security came out, and he knows me. I'm good friends with him, and as soon as he saw me, he said, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but I know it's all good with David. I know. I said, I was just talking on the phone, Les. His name is Les. I said, I was just talking on the phone, Les, and she started assaulting me because I wasn't wearing a face diaper while I talked on the phone and everything. And so then I went into the cafeteria with Les, the chief of the security and everything, and had supper with him and everything, And but anyways, okay, Mike. I'm looking forward to listening to mild-mannered Miles and passionate terrible Tom from Florida and everything.
Okay.
And then I hope Dustin doesn't create a big dust up again today. But it's all in good fun, anyways. Huh?
All right. Well,
So-
listen, David, I'm going to let you go now here because the phone lines are loading up, and I'm going to try and clear all these calls before the Lady Claire joins us. Let's go to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Wow. Listen, I know we don't have a lot of time and all that, Mike, but I'm going to tell you the reasons why I'm going to vote for Trump. Not because I love the guy, because he's disappointed me, but I want to start out by saying that politics is the art of the possible. I'm sure there's some people out there that may have heard that before, but you can only get things done that are possible to be done.
Yeah.
And when you think back to 2016, when the Democrat, all the major power centers were aligned against Trump. The media,
Yes.
certainly, the banks, the media, the military-industrial complex, the DNC, the RNC, for that matter, virtually all the secret police, as we all know now, were heavily involved. The FBI, the CIA, the DOJ. All these people were aligned against Trump, and you know what? The guy's imperfect, but for the first time in years, we got somebody that wasn't thrust down our throats by the power centers. They did everything they could to stop it, and we're never going to get this chance again. And by the way, this program itself will be completely history if Biden wins. They will not tolerate this at all. So that's one of the first things. For all the people who call up about that, you won't even have a forum to talk about it here. But if of the things he's accomplished, he hasn't gotten us into new wars. That's a big one. That's the first in a long time. Obama got us in a couple. Bush certainly got us in a couple. But Trump has not gotten, and it's cost him. The only time he ever got acclamation from the press is when he bombed Syria. But we haven't gone into Iran. We're downsizing Syria. We downsized Iraq. We downsized Afghanistan. It's going away rather than heating up. I disagree with other things, but the other thing is, for the first time in my lifetime, I'm 68. I'm your age. There's no classes in workplaces and in schools. At least it started to roll back. We're telling people that we are the devil, that Caucasians, that we're the devil. I'm saying that as the father of a mixed kid, and how artfully this has been done without demonizing anybody on the other side, right? But just get rid of that. That's a huge advance, just right there. And at least immigration is being talked about. It never was talked about before. There's something to show for it. And we'll never have this again because, you know what? The Democrats and the powers that be, they don't want us populists. That means the people want him. They don't want that. They want who they want. They want who they want, Mike. And
they want to kill off populism.
That's exactly right. That's what they're trying to do. They don't want this ever to happen again, where somebody could be voted in that they didn't control. And they're going to do everything they can to stop it. They don't want this to be decided at the polls. They want it to be decided in the courts and on the street with rioters. And they're pulling out all the stops to make sure that happens. Or the media, mostly peaceful. Oh my God, everything is slanted against. Everything is turned topsy turvy. I mean, the guy that shot the cops in Louisville. This guy doesn't get an attempted murder thing, but Kyle Rittenhouse does. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so it's all flipped. You all know in the final analysis where all this is coming from. It's coming from the font of all evil, the banks, the people who can print money out of nothing.
Yes.
And of course, we have people like Bloomberg and other one of their fellow travelers bailing out all the felons and making sure that all the felons and the criminals can vote for the Democrats. And LeBron James doing the same thing. It's completely stacked. And so, you know what? I'll take this guy with all his flaws and his ridiculous texts and tweets because, you know what? At least we put him in. It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't the banks or the Jews or whatever. although the Jews help on that one too. They always
Yes.
play both sides. But it wasn't the secret police. We elected the guy, and we'll never have that again if he goes out. So that's it. And there might even be some accountability. Maybe. God forbid
Maybe.
there be accountability here. It will never happen. It will never happen if he doesn't get reelected.
All right. Well, thank you for the phone call, Peter. We're going to let you go. We're going to take 4 more phone calls. Then we're going to close the lines for the lovely lady Claire. So let's go to Sammy in Las Vegas. Hello, Sammy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I called in. Can you imagine how divided America is right now?
Yes.
I'm sure Aleister Crowley and George Orwell are dancing in their graves. Remember Orwell said in 1984, we'll have them fighting about things that mean absolutely nothing, of absolutely no importance.
Yes.
Exactly what we're doing right now. We're actually fighting each other over stupid masks. I mean, if you don't want to wear a mask, you don't want to wear a mask. I don't like to wear a mask, but when I go to the store, I'm in there for 10 minutes maybe. I put the damn thing on just to be polite.
Yes.
You understand?
I understand.
And look how divided even we are on alternative radio, where we're supposed to be on the same side. This is all planned. I think Trump was put in to divide us even more, to bring on the Civil War. I mean, the Civil War is coming, and that's exactly what they want, to depopulate us. You understand?
I understand.
And look how phony everything is. Judge Kavanaugh, for example, he wrote the Patriot Act before the buildings even came down. But when we're having his hearing, what are we fighting over? Nobody even mentions the Patriot Act and all the stuff they done behind the scenes. We're fighting over did he or did he not dry hump some girl when he was 16?
Yes.
And who was the lady accusing him? She works for the CIA. And you see how this is playing out for them?
Yep.
And look at the attorney in Florida that gave Jerry Epstein such a sweetheart deal.
Yep.
Did Trump punish him? No, he promoted him. He put him in charge of the Secretary of Labor. You see how we're being divided? I think Trump was put in just to divide the country and got us going at each other's throat. You know, the guy in Tennessee and Justin, they're at each other's throat. I guarantee you, they're both probably very nice guys. You would enjoy to sit down and have a drink with one of them. You understand?
Yes, absolutely.
But my God, see how they have us fighting over something that's absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And believe me, we're screwed, Mike. Both parties are the two heads of the same coin. You can look back into the 1930s. They printed a coin in Germany. One side had the swastika. The other side had the Star of David.
Yes, we've had photos of that coin on the website many times.
And this goes back, Mike. This goes back 1,000 years, if not longer, 2,000 years. This, Thomas Jefferson said, "I fear for our country because God is just," and I think that's one of the most real things that's ever came out of both sides. And one more thing. Look at this with Bill Gates. Everybody, you know it because you're a researcher, and I guarantee most of the people that listen to RBN knows that the internet was created by DARPA.
Yes.
the secret military that does this, their job is to design.
Yeah,
that
but it
stuff.
got away from them.
They give it to Bill Gates, who is a eugenicist, and he's never had any computer training at all. He dropped out of college. Oh, he invented it in his, and then they put out his propaganda.
No,
Oh, he
no, he
invented
didn't.
this
Actually,
chemical.
actually, he bought DOS from another programmer.
Yeah, you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We are, Mike, I guarantee you a civil war is coming.
Yes.
And this is exactly
I
what
fear
they
that
want.
you're right.
Donald Trump is pushing the Civil War. The Democrats are pushing the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
We're screwed, brother.
Yeah, we are.
Tell Claire I said, honey, I love you guys.
Okay, well, she's wearing her headset here right now. We're going to take 3 more phone calls, get through station identification, and then Lady Claire will be on the microphone here. Miles in Maine, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Boy, you know, that guy was really out of step that was just on here. He sounded a lot like Chance, but, you know, he was just so wrong because everybody knows, especially the Democratic Party, that Al Gore invented the internet.
Absolutely. You know, it's a bunch of tubes.
You know, and that was just one of his accomplishments. Love Story.
Yes.
The light bulb.
Yeah.
And, you know, Al Gore did it all. And he certainly cast the deciding vote for NAFTA. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I just want to tell you, Michael, you made your Rivero Rangers proud once again because Chance was talking yesterday and he really sounded as if he was ready to squelch our First Amendment. And I just want to run this by you, Michael. What if this was the convention in Philadelphia and they said, now, you know, we might make one of you mad and you might have a view we don't like. So why don't we just not talk about it?
I don't think that would have been a very good idea. In fact, the reason it took so long between 1776 and the actual signing of the Constitution was because they did argue about it a lot. And there was some hostility. In fact, I seem to remember a story from the early part of the country where one legislator actually went after another legislator with a pair of fire tongs. Beat him over the head.
And let's not forget. Yeah, let's not forget Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. But you know, such is the contest of freedom, right, Michael?
Yes.
And I was just so proud of you because you made your Rivero Rangers so absolutely proud. And you know, a lot of these shills that call in, these shills need to take a pill because they call in and they don't understand that you know who they are, and most of us know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing we got to be on guard. But Peter's call today again, awesome, man. Peter's, you know, awesome. And
yes.
I used to love it when we'd hear Peter, and then not long after that call would come in, you would hear John from Barbados. And man, are we missing him? But keep up the good work, Michael, and thanks for being there.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the kind words here. We're going to take a break for station identification. We have 2 more calls to go, and then the lovely Lady Claire.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who joins us on Friday afternoons. And we're going to be turning the microphone over to her after we get these last 2 calls out of the way. So we're going to go to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Oh, Mike, I agree with Peter there that Trump is the best that we're ever going to get. If when we lose him, we're never going to get anybody like him. And this guy that said he was put in there to start a civil war, who put him in there? Everybody, the whole establishment hated him and still hates him.
Yes.
The rhinos, the Republicans, and the Democrats all hated him. Now, Trump, as soon as he got in, as soon as he was inaugurated, he got America out of the WTO, World Trade Organization. He also got America out of the Kyoto Treaty, the malarkey of global warming.
The Paris Accord.
The president would. What?
He got us out of the Paris Accord.
Okay, Paris Accord. Okay, whatever. The global warming, and he's done a good job putting judges in there. Now his judges aren't perfect, but they're a lot better than these libtard judges that are going through. That just are crazy, and they want to just throw the Constitution out the window. So and he's put in a whole lot of federal judges. Plus, now it's going to be 3 Supreme Court judges. And when he gets elected, he'll probably get a shot at a couple more Supreme Court judges. And I just hope that the Democrats are trying to steal it. They got everything lined up. They got all their lawyers ready to file all kinds of lawsuits. They're changing the laws so they can do whatever they want and ballot harvesting and all this other stuff. And I hope it's not going to. That's what will cause a civil war if they try to just steal it, blatantly steal the whole thing.
I agree. We could wind up like Belarus, where there's an election that's obviously been stolen and everybody is in the streets because of it.
Right. Okay, I'm going to let you go, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to take a call from Matthew in Texas. Matthew, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I was talking about the economy, and I'm really curious about masks. Repeatedly over the past 8 years, I've heard a lot of stuff from you. Specifically, I'm talking about masks. They're supposed to slow down the effect on hospitals. And yet, we've already passed that point. So when do we stop wearing masks, Mike? And when are you going to start promoting not wearing a mask?
I'm not promoting not wearing a mask. I'm leaving that to everybody's individual judgment here. Like that earlier caller, I wear one to be polite when I go to the supermarket, but I too am convinced they're of no use whatsoever. It's like trying to stop mosquitoes with a chain link fence. As far as when the mask mandate will go away, I would say probably right after the election.
I'm starting to disagree with you. I'm seeing a lot of stuff from July of next year. I mean, this is getting ridiculous.
It is
stealing our freedoms, and we are just letting them do it. Anyways, masks don't help you. Sorry, Dustin. Like them. Anyway, thanks. Claire. Good one.
Okay. You can say that a little louder if you'd like.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, Matthew, thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go, and the phone lines are closed right now so that Lady Claire can have her shot at getting her unique perspective on the world out to you.
Yes, and there is a commodity that I think we all need to be paying more than a little bit of attention to, and that's oil. Because as we know, oil is the lubricant for war. And there was an article in oilprice.com by Irina Slav, very cogent. And she describes Africa as the undeniable final frontier for oil. Now, the demand for oil has been down due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but exploration isn't really dead, and definitely not in Africa, which is a hotspot in oil and gas before the pandemic. Now, the East Africa crude oil pipeline, earlier this month, French Total and the Uganda government signed an important deal for the construction of a pipeline that will carry Ugandan oil to the Kenyan coast. This is big.
Yes.
2 weeks later, the presidents of the two countries signed their own deal with about a 3.5 billion, that's a lot of zeros, infrastructure. The South African oil discovery, Africa Energy, a Canadian exploration company, said last week it expected to strike a lot of oil in an offshore block in South Africa with reserves that could actually exceed those of early discoveries made by African Energy and Total in the same block. Earlier this year, Africa Energy doubled its stake in the consortium, exploring the block to 10%. That is a significant risk.
Yes, it
They're
is.
willing to take. Total is the operator. Africa Energy should announce the results of the drilling project by the end of next month, end of October.
Mhm.
And we're just about into October real soon. It's
Yes,
next
we
week.
are. Any second here.
And drilling in Zimbabwe. And apparently there has been an Australian company, Invictus, which has meanwhile started to prepare drilling exploration wells in Zimbabwe, with the start date scheduled for a little bit like a year from next month. Now, this would be the first oil and gas wells to be drilled in South Africa's neighbor to the north, another country hopeful that it will strike oil, which will boost its energy self-sufficiency. Now, there is also a license in Gambia. It's a US-based explorer. UK-based explorer, Petronor, earlier this month, and they received a 30-year drilling license from the Gambian government after an arbitration process concerning 2 offshore blocks. Now, after the successful completion of the arbitration, Petronor will have rights to explore just one of the blocks, with the other one passing to an unnamed major oil company. Mike, who would you think that would be?
Probably one of the American ones.
Yeah. And the pandemic has delayed exploration, but they're going to start up again, particularly if the world finds itself on an even more intense war footing than it already is right now, courtesy of the US's bellicose belligerency around the world. Now, folks, these resources, including oil, is the reason that AFRICOM exists,
Mhm.
to exploit as much of natural resources as they can before we know what hits the fan. And we also have a related story, again from Zero Hedge, about the Saudi strategy in the current oil slowdown, which is really hurting its fellow OPEC nations. And now this is a little bit of history you might not remember. The real turning point for OPEC as an international commercial and geopolitical force came in October of 1973, when OPEC members, plus Egypt, Syria, and Tunisia, began an embargo on oil exports to the United States, UK, Japan, Canada, and the Netherlands.
Oh, I remember those long lines at the gas stations.
Even odd, hello.
Yep.
In response to the US's ongoing supply of arms to Israel in the Yom Kippur War. The spike in oil prices was exacerbated by incremental cuts to oil production by OPEC members over the period, and taken together by the end of the embargo in March 1974. The price of oil had risen from around $3 per barrel to nearly $11 per barrel, and then it trended higher again. This, in turn, stoked the fire of a global economic slowdown, especially felt in the West. It was ugly. I remember that.
It was very ugly.
Yeah. And in 2014, though, in a series of high-profile meetings with bankers and fund managers in New York and London, various Saudi officials kind of made it clear that regardless of the economic and financial consequences to its fellow OPEC members, the kingdom would instruct them to massively overproduce crude oil in order to crash oil prices, in order to destroy the then nascent U.S. shale oil sector. You know, Mike, when I think of Saudi Arabia, the word frenemy comes to mind very
much so.
quickly.
Very much
With
so.
friends like these, ... Okay, so by the time the next oil price war rolled around earlier this year, instigated again by the Saudis, with exactly the same strategy as the war of 2014-2016, crude oil overproduction to crash oil prices, and exactly the same objective to destroy or disable the U.S. shale oil industry. The U.S. was not quite in a mood, as one senior official close to the presidential administration told Oil Price at the time, to put up with any more from the Saudis. Okay? Finally, on April 2nd, after the Saudis had further destroyed the finances of its fellow OPEC members, Trump telephoned Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and told him directly that unless OPEC started cutting oil production, he would be powerless to stop lawmakers from passing legislation to withdraw U.S. troops from the kingdom. Do we have a protection racket in Saudi Arabia or what?
No, we don't. But the reason countries like to have U.S. troops on their soil
Yeah.
is because it brings with it a lot of money.
Yes, I know.
You know, those soldiers tend
Yeah.
to spend, you know, they'll send some of their money back home to their
Yeah,
families, but
yeah.
they keep a lot of it in their pocket and they
Right,
spend
right.
it. There's the rent on the military bases.
Right.
And of course, the supplies for the bases come from local markets.
Right. And worse, though, is on the horizon for Saudi Arabia and OPEC. The U.S. has been so enraged by the Saudis trying to destroy its geopolitically and economically crucial shale oil sector yet again that any further moves by Saudi and OPEC to either push prices up over the U.S. $80 per barrel of Brent level, regarded as economically harmful to the U.S., or below the U.S. $40 per barrel of Brent, seen as critically damaging to U.S. shale oil sector, is highly likely to result in the passing of the No Oil Producing and Exporting Cartels Bill, or NOPEC. Now, a version of the NOPEC bill managed to pass both houses of Congress in 2007 before it was shelved by President Bush, who said that he would veto it. However, in February of 2019, the House Judiciary Committee passed the NOPEC Act, which has cleared the way for a vote on the bill before the full House of Representatives. And on the same day, Democrats Patrick Leahy and Amy Klobuchar, and most remarkably, two Republicans, Chuck Grassley and Mike Lee, introduced the NOPEC bill to the Senate. Now, it was only because of the intervention of President Trump at the time that stopped that bill from being voted into law. And what it does, to boil it down, this bill makes it illegal to artificially cap oil and gas production or to set prices, which is a corollary function of OPEC. And it removes the sovereign immunity that presently exists in U.S. court for OPEC as a group and for its individual members. Now, this would leave Saudi Arabia open to being sued under existing U.S. antitrust legislation, with its total liability being an estimated U.S. $1 trillion. That's a lot of zeros of investments in the U.S. alone, and to all the other OPEC members facing the same legal action. And Mike, your thoughts? It would also mean the end of OPEC as any kind of meaningful organization for the setting of prices.
It
Right?
absolutely would.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it is a complicated issue.
Mhm.
And, you know, those of us who went to public school probably think that the price at the pump has to do with supply and demand, and don't realize the machinations behind the scenes
Yeah.
where, you know, the government is trying to control the price of oil and
Yeah.
other commodities
Oh, yeah.
as a means of maintaining control over our society. But the shale oil sector is in trouble, has been in trouble, and lower oil prices definitely put more pressure on it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And now we have the issue, fast forward, of an Iranian tanker loading Venezuela crude for sale abroad as U.S. threatened seizure. Now, last month, Mike, as you know,
Yes.
U.S. authorities seized the Iranian fuel aboard 4 tankers en route to Venezuela and diverted them to Houston over alleged sanction busting operations between the two countries. Now, despite this incident and further threats by Washington to disrupt the growing bilateral trade between quote unquote rogue states, in U.S. parlance anyway, Reuters has cited an internal company source in documents to allege state-run PDVSA is preparing for a sale of 2 million barrels of heavy Venezuelan crude to Iran. Now, likely it's going to be sold to somewhere in Asia. The sales are said to have been agreed upon by the Venezuelans PDVSA and the state-owned Iranian National Oil Company. And apparently, the Iranian-flagged Very Large crude tanker VLCC arrived in Venezuela's main port of Jose this month, carrying 2.1 million barrels of Iranian condensate to be used as a diluent for Venezuela's extra heavy oil production, according to government documents. And it plans now to ship Venezuelan product abroad in violation of U.S. sanctions. Now, the Iranian tanker is allegedly trying to conceal its operations, which is owned and managed by the National Iranian Tanker Company, NITC. And it made the whole trip from the Middle East to PDVSA's port with its transponder off and has remained offline while in Venezuelan waters. Mike, isn't this pretty darn dangerous?
It's dangerous going in and out of harbors, but if you're in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by blue water, the transponders are nice to know where ships are and to let your home port know where you are. And it works through a satellite system. But there are a lot of ships who don't have those transponders, such as pirate ships and, ships that are doing something that somebody else doesn't want them to be doing.
Right. Now, the article concludes with the statement, it's as yet unknown when it plans to sail, but the U.S. has threatened to conduct further oil and fuel seizure operations on the high seas, like what happened previously in August. Mike, what's going to happen if China and Russia get involved with this? How scared should we be?
I don't think China and Russia are going to get involved in this other than to denounce what the United States is doing as essentially piracy on the high seas.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And in terms of illness and
a pirate's life for me.
Right. In terms of economics and illness, there was a question. It's you, dear. It's you. And the question, also from Zero Hedge, is will a second COVID-19 lockdown coincide with a no-deal Brexit? Interesting juxtaposition of timing. Now, this comes to us from Stephen Guinness. And he says to his readers and listeners, when I last posted an article about Brexit in May, I discussed how the convergence of a possible World Trade Organization scenario with the EU and COVID-19 lockdown measures would serve to exacerbate the economic strain that the US is currently being UK is currently being subjected to. I argued that the devastation brought about by the self-imposed lockdown became more profound. Not only would a WTO Brexit compound matters, but it would also put further downward pressure on sterling and prove to be a harbinger for a significant strike in inflation over the coming years. Now, 4 months on, and a number of developments have occurred. And he says, as I predicted, the transition period was not extended, meaning it's going to end on 31 December of this year. Shortly afterwards, a Cabinet Office document of worst-case scenarios was revealed that detailed what may happen should a no-deal Brexit coincide with a second wave of COVID-19. One of the possibilities which was raised was how the government could decide to deploy the military on the streets of Britain in the event of public disorder. Whoa, this from the country which gave the world the Magna Carta, and with Sweden having gotten to a respectable state of herd immunity? Mike, if I were a Briton right now, I would sure hope to heck that this is not about what we're going to see, but with the lockdowns that Boris Johnson has declared by fiat. I am not sure. I'd like your thoughts on that.
Well, right now it feels to me like, the whole world seems to be on edge. And that's one of the reasons why, what's happening in Louisville, Kentucky sparked additional protests in Seattle and Portland and various other places across the country. And I don't know what the tenor of the British people is right now, but I can't imagine after all the original lockdown and all the pressure from migration and everything else that's going on, that they're maintaining a Zen-like calm. And I don't think it would take all that much to really send them into the streets here. Okay, we're going to take a break for some commercials here, and we'll be right back with the lovely Lady Claire after these few words.
Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners, so that you can get involved in the activism. Please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers.
Welcome back to our show here. And once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. And Claire, your turn again.
Okay. We have heard a lot about online or distance learning because kids, some of them cannot get back into a classroom because, well, they can't get back into a classroom because their school districts have not okayed it.
Yes.
Now,
but you still have to pay the full tuition, you college kids.
Yes. U.S. school districts are starting to abandon online curriculum provider over racially sensitive and inaccurate content.
Racially insensitive.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The remote learning company Excelis is in some pretty scalding water. As children prepare for online learning to continue being a part of their life for at least another 6 months to a year, and this article says ultimately it will depend on when a vaccine can be distributed. But what if there is no vaccine? I mean, we have to take that into account. There have been embarrassing stories of incompetence by the companies who are running these programs, and they've whipped up a firestorm of controversy in the media. Complaints about the Excellus Learning Accelerator, the program picked by the Alameda County School District in California and many others around the country, have piled up in local press reports. Now, earlier this month, the controversy was sparked by racist or sexist questions, including one that asked young students what the proper definition of a family is, before showing several options, including a single Black mother and a traditional white family with a mom and dad. And the answer was the white family. Folks, families come in all sorts of configurations.
I think the key word, though, is single. And
Yeah.
if they'd left the word Black off of there and simply said the choice is a single mother
Yeah.
and a traditional family with a mother and a father,
I agree.
they would have been in, safer ground here. But everybody is so sensitive about racism now.
Yeah.
Apparently, Uncle Ben's rice is now going to be taken off store shelves.
Ouch. I like that stuff.
Yep.
One couple who said they paid the massively inflated home prices in Alameda was in part because of the schools. And the fact that the district is spending money on programs with such obvious flaws is frankly depressing. Now, over the past couple of weeks, Hawaii has emerged as a locus of complaints about the software. And apparently, Mike, thousands of Kama'aina parents, and Kama'aina means Native Hawaiians,
Local.
people of the earth,
Local people.
signed a petition.
The ones who get the discounts at the tourist venues.
Condemning the public's content as racist, sexist, and low quality. Now, this fall, Excellus, which had previously only been used by some homeschooled students in the state, had become the primary remote learning tool for 80,000 kids across the state. While school districts in Hawaii confessed that they didn't thoroughly vet the problem, one school district in Ohio rejected the software after finding several examples of racially insensitive content. The Delaware City School District in Ohio told parents it reviewed Excellus in greater depth after receiving complaints, and that racially and culturally insensitive material had been pretty darned evident. Now, this is the kicker, all right? It turns out that while Excellus founders tout the software as magical, and unlike anything on the market, Wall Street Journal has found out that 3 of the alleged PhDs in charge of the company got their degrees from non-accredited institutions. Okay, all right. Palm to forehead, folks. I am sorry, but if you care about the future of kids in this country and the world, you get very serious about the software you provide for your kids, because they will be impressionable. And however these software programs teach the kids about the way the world works is how these children are going to see their world. And if that world is dumbed down, non-inclusive, and not sticking to the most rigorous and highest academic standards, it's a very sloppy vision of the world these kids are going to inherit who've studied this.
Okay, now I don't mean to defend Excellus here, but the reality is that, prior to the pandemic, there wasn't much of a market for this kind of software. And I'm not surprised that some very small companies have tried to fill a niche market with a product that really wasn't well worked out to begin with.
Okay.
And I think the big problem is that Excellus got too big for its britches and wasn't able to grow with its own growth, so to speak.
Yes.
But hopefully, with the stunning need for high quality teaching software, there are companies out there that are developing a better class of product. Okay, as long as it's not Peterson Publishing, Common Core nonsense here. But after that one phone call we had, where the professor was saying that the founding fathers were whipping their wives along with their slaves. That's what they're teaching in the colleges today. And, and these kids are going $100,000 into debt to be brainwashed like this. Okay, we're going to take another break for commercials. When we come back, we're going to open the phone line, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Extend your life with Extendovite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendovite. Get the dependability of Extendovite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to the show. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to go to Dustin in New Jersey. Hello, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Claire, if you keep rubbing Mike like that, he's going to be launched into orbit, calling Mike from Earth.
I'm just
hello down there.
I'm just gently stroking it.
Mike.
Yes, come on. We're married, for heaven's sake.
come, yeah, was it Major Tom, right? Major Mike.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I got it, Mike. I'm going to have to respond to some of the listeners. I know,
Okay.
like,
Be gentle.
Mike, I'm always gentle. Yeah, Mike, this is to you and your wife. The winter's
Yes.
coming. You know, in Indiana, Lafayette, Indiana, you know they're going to level 5, right? That means they're lifting the restrictions to the restaurants, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, on the 17th of next month, they go to
Yeah.
level 5, which means, party.
But Mike, that still requires wearing masks and stuff. Why is that? Because, see, I got to respond to some of the listeners like Mark. Mark hasn't called in today. I don't know why. But he'll call in Monday, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Masks stop. They're only there to stop, like, the slow the spread. They stop the heavy aerosols. They're not going to stop the light aerosol. You know that.
They're not going to stop the virus particles.
will stop the heavy virus particles, the ones that are point a certain amount over the thinner particles. But the thinner particles are the ones that hold the higher viral load, most likely, because that's what the studies they think found. They think, they think a lot because they don't know. But
Yeah, they
the
don't.
heavier but Mike, the heavier the load, the heavier, obviously the heavier the particle. That's why you guys should wear your mask. So I don't care what people call in about, like that dude in Texas in July. To continue to wear the mask and just protect yourself because, we're all getting, I'm 50 years old. I know you and your wife are what, 50 also? Maybe around that age. But,
Claire's 50. Claire's 50.
Oh,
yeah.
bless you, Dustin.
but Mike, this is not, it's not funny though, because you know what? Like, you heard about the dude, that gentleman in Nashville, right? It was
Yes.
not Tom Tenpenny. It was he died today or yesterday.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
in the hospital. Yeah. What did he die of, Mike? He didn't die of a common cold or the flu or the sniffles. He died of complications with COVID-19. That's
Well, at
all of
least
us,
that's what
guys.
they're putting on the death certificate. But, remember there's a
Mike-
financial. Okay.
But Mike, we all have vulnerabilities. We're all human beings, right? Like
Yes.
I have high blood. Mike, I'm 50 years old. I have high blood pressure, not too much, but we all have either diabetes, obesity, right? We all have these. When we get older, our immune system drops. I want people to listen to this because it's important. You, Claire, Miles, Tom, Mark. When we get older, our vulnerabilities weaken. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what vitamins we take. I take colloidal silver. I take oil of oregano. Mike, I know all of that stuff. But you know what? We'll still get sick. And I don't want you guys to get sick. You know why? Because I'm proactive. And being proactive, Mike, I look at, what's going on. I look at not what's going on in this country. I look at what's going on in Brazil and India. You guys know what's going on in India, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
out of
they're-
control in India.
Serious
Yeah.
problems in India.
Yeah.
And I love you guys. I love everybody. No matter if I call in, I know Chance says talk about the news. And look, I hear all that. I love all you guys. I don't hate anybody. I want to tell you what I know and what I think, What I think and what I know is two different things, though, we all
Yes.
have our opinion. But, Mike, I'm telling you, the winter's coming. All you guys. The winter's
Yes.
coming, and you guys got to get prepared. And I don't care what one group says or another. You got to be a prepper. And we talk about with the gold or stockpiling certain things. You can stockpile certain things or gold or whatever, but you should still be prepared for whatever happens, right?
Yes.
Well, why is the virus any different? Back in 1918, when World War I was going on, Mike, some people thought that was a hoax. World War I was going on. Oh, the virus comes along. Yeah, the virus came along during World War I, but had nothing to do with World War I, did it? It wasn't part of a hoax.
It actually emerged on a U.S. military base called Camp Funston.
In Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm saying
It
it
had
had nothing to do with a
with
hoax
Spain.
being part of World War I, though.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with Spain.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, guys, prepare yourself. I know they're loosening restrictions in Indiana and Florida also. What you heard about restaurants in Florida? They can go full. You heard about that, right? They can go full restrictions. Yeah.
Full occupancy.
So I just want you guys. Yeah,
They're doing that here in Indiana starting after October 17th. Well, you don't need to worry about us because we're in the boonies with the capital Boo, and there's like so much room around us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're at greater risk for mad deer disease than we are for COVID-19.
Mike,
Yeah.
do you go to the store?
Yes, I do, and I wear my mask.
We both do.
Yes.
But then you're still at risk when you go to the store. But just keep that in mind. Mike,
Okay.
you and your wife, stay safe and have a good weekend. I love you guys.
All right.
We
Thanks an
will. You
awful
too.
lot. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Dr. Kelly. And Dr. Kelly, I don't know where you're calling from, but what's on your mind today?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you so much for your work. And I finally remembered to call in when Lady Claire was there today. There was a gentleman in the post office talking about Hawaii, and it just sparked my memory. And I'm grateful that you're here and that you managed to escape while the escaping was good.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
And I would really appreciate it if we could somehow figure out how to get some of this material onto a thumb drive so that those that are print disabled or blind can not only hear the broadcast, but do like a rebroadcast, because the material is so current and so critical. And I just really appreciate and thank you guys for all that you're doing. And God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, there's the RBN archives for the shows and the Ron Gibson archive as well. And, I'm hoping at some point when we revamp the website, the search engine will come back so that you can search through all the articles we've been writing over the last 20 years for some of this information. As far as thumb drives, it wouldn't fit on most thumb drives. I mean, it's a huge amount of information and articles that have built up.
Yeah, and Claire is such a great narrator, and you guys are both such fantastic storytellers. You know, it would be so fun. You know, I mean, I look at Mike Judge doing Beavis, Butthead, and Mr. Anderson simultaneously, and I'm like trying to do Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton and, you know, somebody, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is just an amazing gift and talent. And I'm so glad that people are using it to point a light at the truth in various ways. And thank you again. And talk to you soon.
Well, thank you very much there. We're going to switch over to Jim in New York. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Mike. Well, everyone's getting all riled up about the Supreme Court pick.
Yes.
But I would have a little caution about this Amy Barrett. I read from the Truth Seeker website. Conservative Amy Barrett is for indefinite lockdowns and for forced vaccinations. And it shows by some of her recent rulings during the COVID crisis. And I would suggest to your audience, everyone goes to the Truth Seeker, look at that article. It's something of a concern. So, you know, you never know what you're going to get with these Supreme Court picks.
It can be very, very tricky here, but I think the reality is we can't survive a prolonged lockdown. I mean, this last one has just ruined our economy. And in any event, CNN just tweeted out that it is going to be Barrett who's nominated by the president tomorrow.
Well, that's not necessarily good news. I mean, it's sure she'll be better than Ginsburg or Kagan.
Yes.
I have to say, I think it may be a disappointing pick. It's like Neil Gorsuch. I told everyone 3 years ago, he belongs to a very, very liberal Episcopalian church. And, you know, and so I think he should have picked that Hispanic woman, the Cuban woman instead.
Yes.
But, anyway,
it would have helped him in Florida.
That's all I wanted to say. Everyone look at the Truth Seeker article before you all get, you know, riled up and supporting Amy Barrett. But thank you very much for taking my call, and have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to switch over to Laura in Michigan. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Claire. I wanted to wish you, Claire, a Merry Christmas. You know why it's Merry Christmas today?
Why?
December 25th is when God put the zygote in Mary's womb, and 9 months after December 25th is September 25th. It's the actual birth of Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So a lot of people don't know that. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you. First of all, that guy, he's saying, okay, go to the Truth Seekers. Well, who's running this Truth Seeker website that he's talking about? I want to know that first. Do you know what I mean? Before you believe anything.
Uh-huh.
Can't trust that. Also, I was going to say, no, technically, we don't even need to have a hearing on her because they've all the people were vetted by the FBI. Okay, they have been done. The vetting's been done. So anyway, all you do is you have a hearing. You're leaving it open for Democrats to come up with lies. You know, third grade, she's in a test or something. So they got a simple majority right now. They need to have a hearing. Just run it through and tick off the Democrats totally. Let them
Well, we do.
let their heads explode.
We do have to conform to the Constitution.
Yes.
And the Constitution says the president nominates and the Senate advises and consents. And they're going to go through the motions. But apparently they do have the votes to confirm. The Democrats are going to try and come up with something to convince at least 2 Republican senators to change their votes. But after the Kavanaugh hearings, I think they're going to lack a certain credibility.
Yeah, because you don't want them just coming up making up stories, you know. So I say don't even have a hearing. Just run it through. You got the votes, go for it. And that is perfectly legal, constitutional. Like you said, as long as you got the votes, do it. So anyway, okay, I'll let you go. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Lord.
Bingle Gels, hello. And we're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. There you are, Mark. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, Mike. I just got home. I wasn't even going to bother calling, but then I heard Justin mention my name. So I do want to say, I have a friend of mine, Texas, used to work with me. He's got the COVID. He's got the 19. All right.
So sorry.
Now, a bunch of people at the prison there work that now have it. Thing is, they wear their mask over 12 hours a day. And he checked something yesterday. One of those things where you put the oxygen thing in your finger.
Yes.
The meter.
Your oxygen.
The meter, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the meter. It checked 97 without a mask, which is good. Goes show you his oxygen seems to be okay even with the COVID. But then when he put the mask on, it was 91.
Now, that's interesting. I'm going to have to try that experiment because, I've got one of these little gizmos, and I'll definitely run that experiment.
Okay. So let me tell you something, Dustin. Those masks are not preventing anything. They're making people sick. They're making people more susceptible to the 19 or whatever else is out there, including other flus and everything else. That's why I hate Fauci so much, because he's pushing this garbage. Fauci and Gates and Birx, and well, of course, Gates, but, that's why. It's not doing anybody any good. And they lied, and first they said masks aren't necessary anyway, and then they say, yes, it is. All it is a symbol, a slave symbol. Say, here, you got to wear these, but on top of it makes people sick. All right? So I just let Dustin know. Hopefully my friend will be okay. He said he lost about 10 pounds.
Oh, ouch.
But his fever, he doesn't have any fever anymore. And he has a funny thing, though. He can't taste or smell anything right now. I heard that is one.
Yeah,
I've heard that as a symptom of COVID.
Yeah, so he says all the people he's talked to that he works with that have it now, they all have the same symptoms there. So other than that, but again, 12 hours a day, they wear that mask in that prison, okay? In the middle of the worst part of the summer, including days when it get over 100, they're wearing that mask. That's not doing anything. And he does have that thing, that little gizmo there, what you put in your finger.
Yeah.
And he tested it himself. 97 without the mask, 91 with the mask. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Steve Elkins. And Steve, I'm going to have to take you through this next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Pulse oximeter. And they're nice little tools.
Yes.
And it doesn't surprise me at all that wearing a mask would lower your FiO2, your oxygen intake there from 97 to 91%. So now let's factor in if somebody has asthma or some maybe COPD, which I think these people who have COPD, they're driving around their little carts with oxygen tanks. And
okay, hold that thought, Steve. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back to finish your phone call.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Nikki, great product. Have to try it for a few months to see results. After taking Extendovite for about 6 months, I have noticed improvement on the numbness of my hands and wrists from carpal tunnel. I will continue to buy the product. Ken Peaks, 5 out of 5 stars. Works as advertised. This formula is very powerful. Be careful to follow directions. I am feeling much better. My heart rate and blood pressure has stabilized and my lower edema has reduced. Lower leg pain due to blood clots has disappeared. Thank you. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And welcome back to our show. We're talking with Steve Elkins, and Steve was telling us about these blood oxygen meters and how their readings can be affected by things, not just the face masks, but other medical conditions. Steve, just pick up where you left off.
Yeah, they're a great tool to use. But if you have these people that have COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, of course, their driving force to breathe is not CO2 like you and I. Their driving force is a low PO2, oxygen. So when I see these people that are driving around the cart with the oxygen tanks, what they have to do is actually crank their oxygen even more so. Like I said, the CO2 is not their driving force to take a breath. It's a low PO2. So they're going to go through a lot more oxygen. And they're actually doing great harm by doing that. They're taxing their pulmonary quite a bit by doing that. And I just got to say that when Dustin calls in, I don't know why Dustin is so insistent about the masks. Now, we've revealed a lot of information. Just today, you revealed something I'm going to talk about on Sunday, but you revealed the fact that the new premise for a vaccine, and when we saw this with the flu vaccine, is that it will not keep you from getting the flu itself. It would simply minimize the symptomology. And they're saying the same thing now for the COVID-19 vaccine, is that,
yes,
you could still get it, but the symptoms won't be quite as severe. Now, let's go back and say, let's admit this, that the premise for a vaccine has changed.
Yes.
This is the new normal. It's not supposed to keep you from getting the disease itself. It's just supposed to minimize the symptomology. That is not what a vaccine is to do, because you wouldn't be taking the MMR vaccine every year also. There's numerous vaccines. You take it one time, it gives you immunity, you're done. It's a scam, and I just don't know why Dustin hasn't learned that Fauci backtracks, he flip-flops all the time. The CDC is always getting caught changing the goalpost here on what they have going. It's a scam. Now, if Dustin wants to wear his little mask, then go ahead. If it makes you feel good, I think he's got a good case of PC, psychological COVID going on here, because he's been brainwashed to believe this propaganda, fear propaganda being thrown out there, but he's forgetting all the other information he's read along the way, just saying, wait a minute, padded numbers. This is this is a lie. This is a lie. He's disregarded that, and on the side of caution, oh, well, it won't hurt to wear it anyway. If he wants to wear it, but I'm a little tired of him trying to insist and suggest to everybody that we all, on the side of safety and caution, we should all do that. We all have immune systems for a reason. There's an old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. That applies to muscles and it applies to your immune systems also. So I don't know. He's just not listening to the information. You're a smart guy, Dustin, but wake up. Read the information, study it, let it sink in. Don't let the psychological COVID take you over.
Okay, well, Stephen, I got to let you go. We got one last caller. I'm going to try and squeeze in. Ken in New York, what's on your mind?
I was going to make a Rice comment, but first, there's been a controversy about whether viruses are alive or dead lately, and I'm not really surprised, considering
they're not considered alive because they cannot replicate themselves. That's kind of where that came on down. Anyway, listen, Ken, I'm sorry to cut you off. I should have gotten to you sooner. But there's the music. The show is over. Please stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please, please, please donate. I'd get on my knees, but then I can't get back up again. And we'll be back on Monday. Have a good weekend. Aloha, America.